I mean, when a baby learns to walk, what do we say to them? You can do it. You can do it. They stand up for half a second. We're cheering them on, right? And then we become adults. And all of a sudden it's like, if you can't stand up and run on the first try, forget about it.
How many of us have forgotten what it's like to be a kid, learning new concepts, trying new things, falling and getting back up, and then trying again and again. Welcome. I'm your host, Terry Yoffe of Try Coaching. In today's competitive business landscape, can you afford not to be at the top of your game? What's stopping you from reaching your desired outcomes and successes? Perhaps you aren't in alignment with what you're doing or haven't figured out your purpose or passion and need to create change to get there. As a certified executive career business and communications coach, I help clients unlock their potential to greater growth, self-awareness, and becoming the best version of themselves so they can be at the top of their game. Here's something important to remember. Did you know that every successful person has had a coach? Why not you? You can learn more about me at trycoaching.com. Have a look at what I'm about, what I offer, and my testimonials. If you think partnering might help you achieve your goals, let's start a conversation. Let's hear what Gina has to say.
What if? In a positive way. What if? What if it works out? What if this is the next step? What if it is just for this week? What if? It's okay. Like, it's that curiosity and that exploration.
When was the last time you thought about tapping into your own creativity? You know it's there, but maybe not in the forefront. Creativity comes in many different forms, and today's guest, Gina Farrar, lets us in on how she inspires others to say, what if, and go for it. Gina Farrar is a multi-passionate creative individual with many different careers under her belt. She loves working with women to empower them to gain clarity, to shift their mindsets, and to rewrite their stories so they can become more of who they are. Adding to this, her greatest passion is inspiring women to tap into their creative spark and just go for it. Welcome, Gina Farrar. I'm going to call you the Renaissance woman. I cannot believe how much you have done. I thought I did a lot, but wow, you have worn so many hats. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
The truncated version is the first part of my adult life. You know, I got married, had a family. I homeschooled my daughters, and that was my career for a good 20 years, coaching them in their sports and just really loving that season of my life. And of course, as it goes, the children grow up and then you don't have the same role in their life anymore. And I went back to work. I was a makeup artist, actually, all of their lives, plus some for 33, 34 years. And that bled into my 50s. I retired from retail at just before 50. And I had planned to go I became a certified coach, and I was doing leadership training, and I was doing my Warrior Women Live was developed during that time. I was doing events for women, talking about empowering them and helping them to break through beliefs and mindsets that were holding them back. My father-in-law died suddenly, and that moved us into being responsible to really help my mother-in-law. She had some challenges that required a lot of help with decision-making and everything. And we did that for several years, about 3. And I was the primary caregiver for her medical. And so the last 4 months of her life, I just took my life. I have a podcast And that started in 2018. And that was the only thing I hung on to during that time when I was really caught up with taking care of my mother-in-law and my mother and all of their medical needs and shopping and all of that. So all the redirections in my life over that time, once my mother-in-law passed, I still had my mom to care for, and I was trying to figure out what to do next. So my podcast was an anchor. My midlife focus, being able to meet wonderful people like you, because you were on my podcast, and just I kept my lifeline going through that and talking to women about reinvention, where they're at in their life, and a lot of other wonderful topics has brought me here, where I have really switched away from coaching as a primary. I still do it, but my art, my painting, my journal making, my book making is the thing this year that is going to be my top priority energy wise. So making a big career shift again, if you will. And I'm really excited to see where this new season takes me.
Oh, gosh. Wonderful. I love to hear what women, men kind of are doing, especially women that are of a certain age that make shifts in their lives. I totally get it. Wherever I went from, I've landed podcaster. I'm a coach. I have a TV show, Coaches Creating Change. So what thoughts do you have about how this is going to shift in you, the painting and everything else that you're doing?
So when it comes to art, since I was a makeup artist for over 33 years, I had done every kind of makeup you can do. I had done body painting. I had done magazine spreads. I'd done feature films. I have done music videos, brides, I've done it all. So that was me being an artist. That was me expressing myself on somebody, connecting with them as a person, what made them feel beautiful, what they wanted, learning to get intuitive about, and I tend to be very intuitive. So I could kind of translate my makeup, if you will, to their personality and to connect with them. And that is what art is for me. It's an expression of something that's on the inside that we're just kind of reflecting on the outside. So for me, I've always been an artist, but I've always wanted to be more traditional as an artist. I've just been very hesitant, and then life kept happening. And during quarantine, I picked up my brushes and my palette knives and I began to paint, prolifically. And that's when I finally allowed that part of me to be expressed. And it's like, this is just what needs to happen next in my life, if that makes any sense at all. And it's that thread has always been there. I've just followed it in a bunch of different ways. I mean, if I were to list the ways that I've been creative, for me, creativity is key to my life.
And we see the lovely paintings behind you and your art. I just love what you said. Creativity comes in many different forms. And for you, it's about your art and everything else. And it almost feels like a spiritual journey on some level.
If I were to express my beliefs around creativity, I think we as humans are created to create. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean with a paintbrush or with a pen, but people create businesses, they create gardens, they create food, they create relationships. I mean, think of all the things we do creatively. So I think we're created to create. So it's a natural expression of who we are to our core. And how we choose to do that is where it becomes something so personal, like you're talking about, when it's just flowing out of you in such a beautiful way. And I think in midlife specifically and beyond, there's this real renaissance happening with women, where they're returning to, or if maybe for the first time, finding creativity as a joy and an outlet.
Returning to finding creativity.
I mean, even you, Terry, a podcast is a creative outlet that you didn't tap into until a certain point in your life when you had a need for expression. This platform was perfect for you. And look, it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like the season comes, life shifts, and that creativity just creeps up.
Exactly. Even my coaching, So I work with my clients in helping them create the changes in their lives so that they can become the best version of themselves. And I do that by making them aware of what is holding them back so that they can start to remove the barriers that will eventually lead to their successes. I'm all about creating change. That's my life. That's my podcast. That's my coaching. I have a TV show with another coach, Coaches Creating Change. And I think it's wonderful that we can tap into and find a purpose. And, I may have another one next year. I'm looking at doing a TED Talk. I'm thinking about it. Whether we do it like you with painting, makeup. I want to hear a little more about your book. Do you write books?
That is the one thing that I really haven't felt a pull toward is writing books. I make books. So journals, art journals, writing journals. I use, papers from other parts of the world. I use beautiful fabrics. So I'm creating journals. Bookmaking is a specific where it has a spine and, like a traditional book. And then I have journals that I hand sew. I have a love of paper and pens, and I've journaled all of my adult life. And so I create beautiful journals to inspire other people to draw, write, capture quotes, whatever it is, plan their future. I think that writing in a personal form like journaling is such a useful tool. And you probably, as a coach, Terry, agree that journaling is a great way to get the nonsense out of your head onto paper, your dreams out of your head onto paper, so they become tangible. But that's the kind of bookmaking that I do.
Do you sell these?
I do. Yeah, I do sell them. I'm going to be involved in a really cool co-op this coming weekend. It'll be before our recording, but yes, I sell them. I sell my art and I sell my books as well.
What's one thing you don't do?
What's one thing I don't do?
I mean, you do so much. As I said in the introduction, you're like this Renaissance woman. There's so many incredible outlets.
Well, let's see. Fun fact, I've sung for years, been in different choirs, and I've actually been in a gospel competition with the gospel choir I was in. We had an album. So I've done some fun things. So what if I haven't done? I haven't built a house.
Well, you know what? You are building a house, your house of you, the house of Gina.
Yeah. I believe, Terry, I take it as a compliment that you feel that I've done a lot of wonderful things, because my desire is if I want to try something, to try it. And that's what I try to encourage people to do, because you know what? Why not? Why not try it? I don't have to be good at it, but if I want to try it, like right now I'm on a sourdough baking binge and I've been doing a starter, and I've really enjoyed that creativity of creating these different breads and sharing them with my family. So I think it's more of a mindset. What's there to be afraid of to try most of these things? There's something for me to try. There's probably 100 things I've done that I did for a season and then I just didn't look back. I got it out of my system and I just moved on.
What I'm hearing is it doesn't matter if you're not good at it or it doesn't work out or you feel vulnerable, like with your art or your bookmaking or your singing. Just do it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I took a tap class because years ago when my girls were growing up, there was a little place near where we lived where as an adult, I could take tap classes, which I loved. They're hard to find, but there's so many ways, especially with the internet. My gosh, you can get on YouTube and learn just about anything. Why not tap into all those things, kind of like going to a smorgasbord? Try a little bit of everything and find the thing that brings you joy right now. It doesn't have to be forever. And I think maybe that's people get caught up in, well, what if I don't, in 2 years, don't want to do it? Well, I don't even know where I'm going to be in 2 years. But this week, I love it.
You also have a podcast, Feminine Roadmap. You talk a lot about inspiration. How do you inspire others? What are your thoughts about that? Inspiration. You talk about the warrior spirit, which you certainly epitomize. Let's talk about that a little bit. Your podcast, The Feminine Roadmap, warrior woman, inspiration. You said you don't coach anymore, but tell us about how you create change and inspire others.
I coach when I'm needed to coach, but let's talk seasons. So this particular season of my life, Terry, my word for the year is what if, in a positive way. What if? What if it works out? What if this is the next step? What if it is just for this week? What if? It's okay. Like, it's that curiosity and that exploration. So when it comes to inspiration, I think sometimes we're looking for that great big, fireworks show. But it's really, when I started my podcast, it's because I felt like as a woman, I was like 51 or 52. And I thought at the time, there really wasn't a conversation going on a broad scale about the reality of who we are as women. And because I focus on women, I know men have their journey, but I'm not a man. So I wanted to talk to and about women. And so what ended up happening was I started out kind of with a partner. She was just there to help me out the first 6 months. And then she went and did her own thing. And I kept going and I started finding guests. I was highlighted in Women's Day magazine, which really launched my PR connections. And through that, the inspiration, my desire was to create a resource where women could literally, like a library, look at the topics and just find something in that moment that resonated with them in this midlife season of their life. And so the inspiration was a partnership between me. My platform became the holding space for wonderful women and sometimes men who had resources and things that I thought would help women navigate their midlife and beyond and empower them to, make the shifts that naturally are coming at us. But someone like me, my friends joke that I'm always doing something new and I'm the adventurous one. But to me, I just want to inspire other women to take that courageous step for them, whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be something grandiose. I happen to just jump in wherever I'm passionate because that's my natural inclination. But when it comes to inspiration, Terry, I partner with women like you. I've had wonderful, even men on my podcast who are demonstrating. A lot of women that I've talked to over 50, 60, 70, even 80, who are speaking into our lives and pointing forward and saying, this is what life actually can be if you want it to be. And I think that is at the core of why I started this podcast, Feminine Roadmap, is so that women could see we don't have to follow an expectation of aging. We don't have to follow an expectation of what midlife looks like. We get to create it. Back to the creativity. We get to choose what it looks like. Life happens, but that doesn't mean, like a ship, that we don't keep our sights on the shore we're headed for, no matter what storms come our way. So the inspiration is because I believe to my core that we have a life to live and we get to fill it full of these wonderful things if we want to.
What I have done recordings on and tell clients when something comes up and, as you said, why not? I say, yes, of course, sure. And that's how the trajectory of my life changed. I was offered a sales position for Women's Wear Daily. She wanted me because I had fashion experience. I had no sales experience, none. And the opportunity came up. And I said, sure, why not? It's the worst that could happen. I was phenomenal. And I went on to other companies in sales. Didn't even know it, but it was in me.
And you don't know that it's in you until you try. And sometimes, when a baby learns to walk, what do we say to them? You can do it. You can do it. They stand up for half a second. We're cheering them on, right? And then we become adults. And all of a sudden it's like, if you can't stand up and run on the first try, forget about it. That's not right. What's right is, why not try? What if it's hard at the beginning, but you end up loving it? Well, guess what? Keep going. What if you don't like it? Fine. Pick something else. It's okay. Nothing is in cement. We get to choose what we curate our life to be. Things happen to us, yes. It's not like a positive, it's like positivity is going to get you everywhere, but mindset, how we think about things, to the warrior women that we were touching on. The reason I started Warrior Women Live, it was pre-COVID. So the live events went away because the world changed. But my goal was to bring women together and remind them of who they are, Terry, who they were created to be, and the power that is within them to do the thing that's in their heart to do. If it's in there to do, I believe we should tap into it. We can't control all outcomes, but we can respond to that inspiration, that creativity, that desire, and hold a space for it and see where it goes.
I don't know if you read, Michael Clinton was on my podcast my first year. He wrote a book, Roar into the Second Half of Your Life.
Nice.
Or Life Will Do Something. And it really touched a nerve in me because I am older. And he said, ageism is out. It doesn't matter how old you are. Just go do what you want. And,
yes.
Where people think people in their, I don't know, even 60s, 70s, 80s, that we are elderly, that people say that. And I think elderly, that's such an old notion. If somebody on the news says, oh, this elderly person of 70 fell or whatever. And I think, you know what? Screw you.
If we're breathing, we have things to do. That's right. Just exactly, the way it is.
Exactly. Yet there are people that retire and don't think beyond, okay, I've retired. And their image is, and there's nothing wrong with it, the clubhouse or pickleball or whatever. And, there are people that do that, and that's great. But I wonder if they think, I know there's more, but, or however, ... and they don't do it. So we are here, and that's one of the things that I talk about a lot, is you can. If you want to, if there's a burning desire, you can do something, whatever it might be, a passion, painting. My mother-in-law, she's gone now, and she started painting at, I think, 50. Her work is on my walls. She has done such amazing artwork.
Right. There's no deadline on things we can do in terms of, if you think, oh, it's too late. It's only too late if you believe it's too late. That is a complete paradigm inside of your head. I think believing that our age limits us. Someone's going, well, what about being a ballerina? Or what about, okay, well, obviously we're not talking about things that are physically impossible. Although I had a guest on my show, she is in her 70s and she's climbing mountains. She's going around the world and speaking to climbing clubs in Europe. And so technically she didn't start climbing till she was 59. She climbed El Capitan for the first time on her 70th birthday. So I'm going to use her as an argument that why couldn't you try? But the thing is, life, not age. Life, you're alive, you're breathing, you have something to offer, you have a desire in your heart, you're alive. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're alive. This is the point. If we could quit accepting these limitations and ask the question, well, what if? What if I tried it? What's the worst thing that can happen? 95% of the things we try, the worst thing that can happen is, well, that wasn't great. And did it hurt?
What?
Yeah, so what? At least you got it out of your system, you tried. Sometimes we're surprised by what we enjoy. Sometimes we are surprised by what we don't enjoy. But that's the mystery. That's the adventure of life.
I think the one thing that possibly stands in people's way is fear of failing and being vulnerable. That the grandstand voices, we told you not to do it, why did you bother, our inner voice, obviously the loudest, don't do it. You'll be a failure. You'll look ridiculous. You'll be vulnerable. And that's the one thing most people do not want to have happen to them.
But what's living without it?
Absolutely. People don't get vulnerability as a strength. It's not a weakness, which is a word I hate using. And I think that stops people.
It definitely does. And I think I get that impression when I come across someone who looks at, say, the hundreds of things that I've done and experienced and like, oh my gosh, I could never. That's the one thing. It's like, the only reason you could never is because you don't. I'm not saying you can do what I do or you even care about the things that I do. But each person has this design and the things that they kind of, there's something in there they kind of wish they could do. Well, find the opportunity to give it some space. That's the thing. I think, we are living. Okay, we're aging. So what? I'm still living. What can I do? What can I do? What do I want to do? And I don't personally care if other people don't agree, but that's my personality. So it's easier for me to say, so what? I didn't ask. And maybe we should all have that. I didn't ask you for your opinion. Thank you for those interesting comments. If I want to create change in my life, if I may say this really quickly, Terry, when I create change in my life, or I help someone through my coaching, which I've done for years, I've coached for years. When I help someone create change in their life, I always give them the, I guess, slight warning label that when you shift in your life, there will be people who will push back because our change makes other people uncomfortable. And if we can remember that they're reflecting back to us, not us, but themselves, we create that change and let those who want to go with us. And those who aren't ready yet, just love them and let them sit in whatever they need to sit in. We don't have to judge, but we do need to accept that our change is going to affect positively and maybe negatively the social circle that we're in. But I only get my life to live. Am I not going to live my life because Aunt Jane is uncomfortable? It reflects on her that she didn't live her life, so I shouldn't be living mine. No, Aunt Jane needs to handle Aunt Jane's business. And I need to really decide how much life can I pack into this life I've been given.
Oh, so beautifully said. Really, Gina, so beautifully said. I wish we could spend the day talking. You are such an inspiration. And really, I know you've said so much. What are a couple of takeaways that our listeners could be inspired by, even though the whole podcast was about that? 2 things that you might want to offer up.
Okay. When creating change in your life, the voice that matters, the opinion that matters is yours. We need to stop asking for permission to move forward in our own lives. Now, mind you, change does affect people. And I'm not talking wholesale change, like I'm going to leave my husband, my house, my children, and move to a tropical island. So let's get the big nonsense, what if, out of the way. But what if I decide I want to do something and I say to myself, yes, I invite people around me to accept my change? Great. But you know what? That's number one. If you want to create change in your life, you create the change without the permission of others. We don't get where we're going to go by constantly asking for permission. The second thing that I would say is if there's something inside of you that you've always wanted to try and you keep making excuses, what is there to be afraid of? Just try it. You don't have to broadcast to anybody that you're doing it. Just make an opportunity for yourself to try the thing that's inside of you. And we're talking about creativity. If you think you are just not capable of doing a painting, but you want to paint, get a paint by number. If it's, I really wish I could draw, then get a kid's drawing book. Like, it doesn't matter. If you want to garden, give yourself a 2-foot square spot in your garden and experiment. If you want to cook, What's the worst thing that can happen? No one can eat it. Okay. Just have the courage to hold a space for the thing you really want to do and finally take some action toward it.
I hope everyone that is listening will really take heed for what Gina has to say. What if? Why not? Of course, I'll try it. Those are words that we could all live by. What's going to happen?
What's the worst thing? Usually we just go, oh, I spent money on that garden. I spent money on that, whatever. Money can be made, but you get one life. One. Fill it up. Fill it up.
One life. What are you going to do with it? Gina Farrar, we know what you're doing with your life, which is amazing. Those paintings are fabulous. Thank you so much for your inspiration. I've been sitting here mesmerized by your words, by the conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
It has been a pleasure.
All mine. Thank you. Creativity comes in all forms and sizes, from building a boat to cooking, gardening, and even starting a business. Here's something to consider. What if you reached deep inside and found a passion that you have been thinking about, yet never tapped into, and then try it? I'm hoping that this compelling and extraordinary conversation with Gina Farrar has offered you thoughts on how you can create your own changes by making choices that matter to you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for joining the conversation. For related content on extraordinary work, please visit my website, trycoaching.com. Always remember, when you work with passion and purpose, your work can become extraordinary. Stephen Clark is an author, speaker, and advocate for young entrepreneurs. He is the founder and CEO of RTG Group, a global group of for-profit social enterprises with a purpose of making a positive impact in our world by bringing purpose and profit together. His slogan, which he embraces every day, is live life in 3D. Dream, dare, do. I hope you're curious. If so, you won't want to miss this very interesting and inspiring conversation.